So last week on September 11th, as most of you know by now, American embassies in the Middle East, in Egypt and in Libya particularly, were besieged by mobs of Islamic extremists who were pissed off about a trailer for a non-existent movie about the Prophet Muhammad that was uploaded to YouTube here in the United States, produced by American producers, funded by American producers, and was just released in a version that had been translated into Arabic. So now most of the Muslims in that area of the world can understand what was being said, and they didn't like it none too much. And they stormed our embassy, the United States Embassy in Egypt and in Libya. And unfortunately, in Libya, it resulted in the murder of the American ambassador to Libya, Chris Stevens, and three other Americans were also killed. The topic came up for discussion in the comment threads of two videos that I had made several months ago. I made a video called Five Stupid Things About Islam, and then a few months after that I made another video called Five Stupid Things About Muhammad. And in the comment thread for both of those videos, there was a YouTube user by the handle Hunter Loon who posted some things basically making threats, not just to me personally, although he did threaten me personally. Not that I took it seriously. I don't feel like I'm in danger from Hunter Loon or anything, but just a lot of swagger, a lot of big talk swagger. And I'm assuming it's a he, Hunter Loon basically said, well, what did you guys, meaning Americans, meaning non-Muslims, whatever, what did you guys expect? You guys were asking for it. And if you go to those videos of mine now, a few of his comments have been removed, not by me. I never remove people's comments on my videos. Either by him or maybe by someone at YouTube, I'm not sure. But you can still basically follow what he's saying, even with those removed comments, because all of his comments have not been removed. One of the things he said was, and this is in a response to something that I said, he said, well, you guys asked for it. Do you guys really think we give a damn about America or its power? We worship Allah, not America, just to let you know. Even death cannot stop us. I like to dispute that last point. I think death can stop them pretty well, actually. But he said, you guys asked for it. Now, the attack in the on the Libyan embassy was in response to a movie that somebody made, and also possibly in retaliation to a recent drone strike attack. It's not quite clear exactly what the motivations were behind the raid on the Libyan embassy. It could have been in response more so to the drone strike just recently, and maybe just the Muhammad movie just added a little gas to the fire. Who knows? The point is this: the people in the embassy were innocent of the crimes which the terrorists who murdered them were accusing them of. First of all, the crime of mocking Islam, of mocking Muhammad. That there is no such crime. That is not a crime. But some people imagine that that is a crime and a capital offense. And the people in that embassy had not been guilty of that crime. They did not make that movie. They had nothing to do with it. They probably didn't even know about it until there were crowds of furious Muslims gathering outside of their embassy. That's probably about the time they figured out that this movie existed. And they probably had nothing to do with the drone attack either. They were diplomats. They're not members of the military. They may have, I'm sure they were informed about it. I'm sure that they were aware that these things were happening, but it's not as if the American ambassador to Libya was the guy behind the drone strikes. He has nothing to do with it. He has no authority in those matters whatsoever. And they murdered him. They murdered him because he was an American and because he was there. And that is not just under any moral code, under any rational code of justice you can possibly find. It is not right to murder a person because they share the same citizenship of people who you perceive to be violators of your laws. And then Hunter Loon also said something else. And this is in response to another YouTube user, Atheist Rex, who responded to Hunter Loon saying Allah is with me by saying, actually, he's with me, but he can't talk right now because he's sucking my dick. And Hunter Loon responded to this by saying, say that to a Muslim's face, and you will be in a graveyard within few hours in which there is not doubt. Hunter Loon, I think English is probably his second language. Nothing wrong with that. Go tell your securities to save you from the punishment of Allah. And I'm troubled by this, again, not because I feel actually threatened by anything that this asshole says, but because apparently his perception of Muslims is way more negative than mine. Because of the Muslims I have known personally in my life, and granted, it's a very, very, very short list. Most of them are folks that I met while I was at college. I have never met a Muslim who I would have feared saying anything to about their religion. They knew I was an atheist. They knew I was critical of all religion, including theirs. I have never known a Muslim who I feared for my life what would happen if I were to criticize Muhammad or make fun of Muhammad or question their crazy deification of Muhammad and their crazy worship of Muhammad to the point where any criticism of him, any mockery of him, any show of irreverence is a reason for a violent response. I've never known a Muslim like that. All the Muslims I have known personally have been civilized fucking people. And if I were to make fun of Muhammad, if I were to question their religion, if I were to argue with them about this or that, or to criticize their religion, they might be offended, they might be thin-skinned about it, they might shake their heads or roll their eyes, maybe they might even raise their voice, maybe they might even get angry with me. But I have never, ever, ever felt like I was in a situation where I was taking my life into my own hands by questioning the religion of a Muslim acquaintance. That has never happened to me. They're not murderers. They're not people who feel that mockery of their faith is a death penalty offense. And for Hunter Loon here to make the opposite assumption is much more telling about him than it is about me or about anybody else. The only valid response to religious bullies, like the murderers of Ambassador Chris Stevens, like the thugs who have stormed the gates of embassies in Egypt and Libya, and who, thankfully, and I feel the need to point out, do not represent all of the citizens of those nations. There were Libyans who were trying to save the life of Ambassador Stevens and the others who were killed. The Muslim extremists who murdered them, who attacked the embassies, do not speak for all of their fellow citizens, do not speak for all of their fellow Muslims. And that's something that is very important for us all to keep in mind. But having said that, the only valid response to religious thugs, to religious bullies, like the people who murdered Ambassador Stevens, like the people who committed these crimes, like the people who murdered Theo Van Gogh, like the people who blew up that French newspaper earlier this year, like the people who threatened and sometimes committed violence in response to those cartoons published, the Muhammad political cartoons published a few years ago. The only valid response to those people is to do this. I know I've said it before, but in light of recent events, it bears repeating. If someone threatens you with violence, either you personally or your town, your organization, your culture, whatever, if people threaten you with violence because you have shown irreverence to their religion, you are guilty of nothing. They are guilty of threatening, of intimidation, of inciting others to violence. They are the ones who are committing the crimes. They are the ones who are committing the moral offenses, not you. And the only just response to people like that is to say, hey, fuck you. Because if you are a critic of religion, if you are a mocker of religion, if you're someone who looks at the rules of a radical Muslim and says, those are not rules that I will ever follow, and I think those rules are stupid, and I think those rules are demeaning to the basic dignity of human beings, and I'm going to make fun of them, and I'm going to mock them, and I'm going to criticize them and point out why I think they're wrong and why I think they're insane. You have committed no crime. You have done nothing wrong. And you should not be expected to act as though you have done something wrong. And you shouldn't act that way. So the people who made the movie are not to blame. Even though in their own lives they may be complete assholes. They may be Christian zealots or Jewish zealots who are poking the Islamic zealots in the eye. They might be pricks. They might have done this purely just to hurt people's feelings. Whatever. I don't care. That's not a crime. That's not a crime, and it's certainly not a capital offense. The people to blame are the people who are doing the storming of the gates, who are forming the mobs, who are inciting the violence and committing the violence. They are the ones to blame. They are the bullies. They are the ones who are demanding that everyone outside of their cult follow the rules of their cult and revere the figures of their cult just as they do. And that is wrong. And that is a crime. And that is what must be resisted, and that is what cannot be bowed down to. Those are the people that we have to do this to. That you have to look at the person and say, look, you can think whatever you want about Muhammad, you can worship him, you can have, your feelings can be as hurt as they are when someone says, fuck Muhammad. You can get all outraged about that. You can rend your tunic like the Pharisees in the New Testament when Jesus said he was the King of Kings, whatever the fuck. Do whatever you want. Act like a big baby all you want. But the moment that you choose to harm another person, the moment that you choose to claim the right, the non-existent right, to impose your beliefs on other people through threat of violence, that is when you cross a line. And that is when you earn this. At least this. And if you kill somebody, you might earn a lot worse than that. And you would deserve it. The only valid response to religious thugs like these is to tell them to fuck off. Not to give them what they want. Not to say you're sorry. Not to backpedal and say, whoa, 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 sorry. To say, fuck you. And I don't mean this to be a criticism of the Obama administration's response to these terrible events. I actually think that the president and the administration have handled this very well. I'm not criticizing their response. I'm criticizing people like Hunter Loon, the people who sympathize with the Islamic extremists, the murderers who not only make the relatively reasonable people in their own faith look bad, but make all of us look bad. That demean and embarrass our very species by their actions, by the primitive violence of their actions and their beliefs. I'm talking to those people, the people who heard about an American being killed because another American made a movie that somebody didn't like, and their dick gets hard at the thought of that. And they just have to walk around and swagger around and go on some guy's YouTube page and go, ah, yeah, see, what'd you guys expect? You better not fuck with us. Hey, fuck you. Fuck you.